came to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascend and word, bending verse, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the verses of reading for long. You better catch a God, throw him to sing. Dreams manifested, you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Yeah, I think we got one.
Hello there.
How you doing?
You know, that's it. You know,
I didn't. I'm not sure if I wanted to start the show so soon with some shenanigans, but I don't think I can get away with it and not do it today.
Oh gosh, what is it?
So we gonna start 2 ways. I'm like you. I'm starting with 2 ways.
Oh, okay. Tell me more.
First, we gonna say, "Good Lord, girl, got that be Dion lips on your shirt."
I got what lips?
Neon, the fuchsia lips on your shirt.
Yes, it's a thing.
So some people are like, man, she got lips, he got a cup. They should be together. No way. My cup for me.
Take a sip. Here you go. Cheers.
Mine say Cal State Northridge Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I actually got 2 cups, Shell.
Mm-hmm.
I got a dad cup and I got an alumni cup.
Okay. So tell me more.
I was gonna make my son pay for both, but I thought, well, it would be right for him to do that.
Why?
For the alumni part, I'm an alumni, I gotta pay for my own stuff. But the dad part, he's going there now, so he should pay for all my merch.
I see what you're saying now. I know once I knew you were alumni. I also thought maybe one of the older kids was alumni. So anyway, I thought you had 2 kiddos that went there.
He will be alumni in 2 years. He will be.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, your boys are doing amazing things. I'm so proud of them.
Yeah, that kind of goes with where we're talking about today, Uncharted, right? So that's bananas.
Yeah. So many things to talk about in this series. I know we already launched. By now, we would have launched the first episode of Uncharted Territory series or Uncharted. I don't even know. Jesus, there's so many things. Guys, our list is so huge right now with the uncharted areas that in our lives of where we are, where we're going, and the transitions. I mean, it's literally happening all around us.
Yeah.
So many people impacted.
It's even uncharted for us, even the shows. We did 2 seasons with just the 2 of us. And then last week we had a guest in our virtual studio.
This is our studio. Don't minimize.
Oh yeah. So shout out to Miss Tamara Johnson for being our very first guest on the Knight&Craig show in studio. We appreciate you. And, she's got to run it back and come back and laugh and talk with us soon. Because, for those who watched the episode, there was stuff we did on there. Tell us what your favorite part of that was. I'll tell you what my favorite part was.
What's your favorite part?
Man, it was the upper and lower.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew that was good. My favorite part was actually the conversation before we started. Well, we recorded it. So maybe we might do. Well, Craig, let me ask you, because you're the tech person, I'm not. Yes. Maybe we could do some like takeouts or something with some of that conversation we were having before.
Sure.
To keep that going as we're sharing the episode with her. I think that would be really cool. Like, so they're not even bloopers, y'all. They're just funny moments that were completely, y'all know we don't do script, but completely unscripted, off topic, and absolutely hilarious. So I'm excited to see that come to fruition.
No problem. I got you taken care of.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to reach out to one of these companies I use online to take care of editing for me. I'm going to shout out to them when they become a sponsor, because So I'm not going to even mention the name, but if you are out there and you're a social media, influencer, or if you're a content creator and you're looking for a way to take your long form videos and cut them down into shorts,
Mhm.
various sizes for under 30 seconds, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, or let it do auto. It's about 17 different ways. When this company becomes a sponsor, I'll tell you who they are, or DM us to let us know. I'm not going to say it on the air.
Yeah.
That company, you know who you are, because I just paid the subscription yesterday. And
Hey,
I gotta tell you, it works.
we're in business. We're in
You
business.
know what? You know what? I gotta be for real. I can't even
Yeah.
wait for the sponsorship, because they're gonna be like, "Who is it? Who is it?" Well, it's Opus
No.
Clips. I'll give it to them, because you know what? If we tell them out loud, we start giving
Oh,
emotion to it.
manifested. Manifested.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? If they watch their
Okay.
sales start to skyrocket from folks watching our show, knowing we use Opus Clips, and those of you who have been watching our clips come out on YouTube and Instagram and stuff now. That's what we're using. Love it. It seems to have a great opportunity, and I really love the way it adjusts the video images, because we're side by side here, and they'll do
Mhm.
bottom, side to side, whatever it needs to do to make sure
Yeah.
within that shorts format and template. So I think it's pretty dope. Pretty honestly.
I love that. I love it because and just to be clear, we just started using that for season 3. So anything else that you saw before then, that was your master over here on that
No,
side.
no, honestly, and I appreciate the shout out to me.
Oh,
So the previous set, we got to give shout out to
okay.
StreamYard, this platform, because that was part of the
Oh,
StreamYard beta that was on, I believe StreamYard beta. They did all of those for us.
okay,
It's-
StreamYard.
yeah, so I don't think I actually did any. I did very minor edits using
I
the.
know, but I know you did some stuff. So I can't take credit for anything technical, people, except doing something like this. That's me. That
Yeah,
right there. You saw that? You saw that? That was me. Other than that, that's all I got. I'm the wordsmither. I'm the, we both create different types of imagery and content and things like that. But this is all I got for you right here. Bam.
I appreciate it.
Technical
I appreciate
with
it.
this finger right here. Right
Finger right
there.
there. My finger get kind of wavy.
Dang, that's a long finger, Arsenio.
I'm a long guy. I know, host. That's what I did for Arsenio Hall.
Oh,
But,
I love Arsenio Hall. Don't hate on that, people.
oh
Don't
no,
hate on that.
those who know, I think he got a very raw deal, and we all saw the end of
Oh,
that when it came, and then I know he's back doing this thing where shout out to him, great dude. I think it's hilariously funny. So
yeah.
I think it's
And he's a preacher's kid like us. We should
he's
see if we can get him on the show. Yeah, I believe his dad was a Baptist preacher. I think that's what I saw on his um on his last special.
that's awesome.
So yeah.
And become a guest and sit in the studio, and he was definitely uncharted too, because what he did in revolutionizing late night
Yeah,
was
yeah,
definitely uncharted. And then him charting an uncharted path back to wherever he wants to be. I think he
yeah.
did good. So anybody, shout out to anybody who knows how to reach him directly. Let
Hmm.
him know that we're looking to have him, invite him to be a guest. Come on, Arsenio, come and sit with us.
I love how you are just manifesting all of these things right now, because that's usually you're being me right now. Because usually, like, I don't know, we probably do know, somebody who probably knows him.
I probably do. I probably am at least 2 or 3 calls or text messages from somebody who can get to almost
Yeah.
anything or anybody.
Anywho,
Yeah.
listen, don't have me out here making up phone calls. And I got a meeting with her too. Yep. And I'm not gonna be saying all people's names because Craig be wrong for that. I was already guilty of that last season, talking about lactose intolerance and who in my family.
That's why I named
So
one
I'm
of
not
them.
gonna do that. I'm gonna try not to do that this season. Call out people's names and stuff, or point things out that shouldn't. So,
Yeah, they shouldn't have done
yeah.
it. And if they didn't want to get it told, they shouldn't have done it. So
Wow.
I'm just saying.
But it's not for me to tell. They can tell themselves, but I shouldn't be. Anyway,
For
let's
some
talk
people,
about what we're talking about
hold on,
today.
that was just by the moment that they did it. So I'm just saying.
Today we are supposed to be talking about, and we're still there. We're still there.
Go there.
It's definitely uncharted territory, but sometimes we just stay too long. We just stay too long in a situation We stay too long in a relationship. We stay too long in a mindset. We stay too long in a career. We stay too long at events.
Hmm.
We stay too long at church. We just stay too long. And I don't know if we are thinking about the full consequences of when we know our time is up with a certain thing and we just continue to belabor the time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let you jump in wherever you want to jump in, but that's what we're talking about today, Peeps.
Yeah, it's funny when you say stay too long in church because a user preacher's kid from a good church was Saint Paul.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, see. I remember the
Listen,
church service that started on Monday night and then finished till the following Sunday morning about midnight on Monday morning. So I was like, Lord, Mom and Dad. I mean, I was 4 years old and I had a beard by the time I got out of church.
you know what? I already know you didn't eat, so I'm not going to even play this game with you. We're talking about my daddy at this early in the morning.
See, I'm good. I can actually. But you said don't eat on the show, so I'm waiting. I won't eat that.
Don't eat on the show. That is so tacky, people.
I was going to bring some fruit too. I had cut some watermelon last night, some jungle plum, and I was going to have some little pieces here on the set. And I thought, no, Shell said don't do it. So I did.
Okay, so it's partially selfish too, because I believe, and I'm self-diagnosing, even though I'm not qualified to, but I have that disorder where the noises bother you, like mouth noises in particular.
Oh yeah.
I love loud music, but let somebody smack, or my husband, I'm like, he be rattling paper in the middle of the night and he crunches so hard. And I'm like, why does he have to like crunchy food? I just told him last night, I said, but I think God did this to me too. What are you doing up there? I had my eyes closed and you just brought me totally. Why you do that? I am so done. I was like, my husband has the worst mouth noises, and then he likes to crumple bottles,
Mhm.
like the plastic bottles. And he's like, well, it saves and recycle. I'm like, can you do that outside? Like, do you have to do that right by my bed? And then he's drinking and I can hear the gulp. It's a lot, y'all. I know I have issues and I always say I'm good with my issues and he loves me through them. And I appreciate him because I'm sure I do stuff that gets on his nerves too. But that right there, it's a medical condition. I promise you. It is absolutely a medical. It just does something to my whole body that I don't even want to really even describe because it might sound strange and inappropriate. I cannot. And my sister sent me this video. She was like, that's why you act this way. And it was a whole thing. I can't think of the name of it. Mono something. But
Yeah.
anyway.
And it's funny you said that because I just watched the film Queen and Slim last night.
Oh, uh-huh.
And for those who haven't seen Queen and Slim, or if you have, I love the part when they ate together on a date. And the girl didn't say nothing about the way he ate, but after they got into the trouble and the movie progressed, I want to spoil it. He was eating the same way. She told him that she had problems with what he ate, and just like you described, he's too loud and blah, makes him noise. And they began, as the story moved on, as they really began to make more than just that surface date connection, really started to care about who she was and what she thought. He started to eat silently. She noticed that when the meal started, he started to eat. She was like, she looked at him like, where's the noise? She had to smile like, wow, you heard me. And for some of us, it's related to Uncharted because I was asking myself, and since being a widow now and reminding myself through the struggles that I had in my marriage, I often ask people who I hear have struggles in their marriages now, leave it unchecked and uncharted and undealt with. I'm like, why didn't you make any changes? Why don't you try to voluntarily work things through and talk things through? And I find that people really don't make the changes for someone else until they really have a deep appreciation and care for that person, a robot. When it's just surface and superficial, it's just date night on the weekend or whatever, it really doesn't matter. But when that person has a care, if you would be gone, then changes really start to manifest. So
Yeah.
some of us stay too long in a mindset where it's harmful to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something we really need to check about and see what are you doing in our mindset and in our life that really negatively speaks to your character or negatively hurts someone else.
Yeah, that's it's powerful because in thinking about the Queen and Slim and me and Big Daddy, it's like sometimes he does things to annoy me on purpose. He knows.
Mhm.
But I can always tell when he's had enough of like, why are you monitoring what I'm doing kind of a thing? Like, can I just enjoy this cracker? I'm like, you
Yeah.
can enjoy the cracker, honey. So there was that transition of him recognizing over the months or years and early on in our relationship. Now we're 13 years in. So
Yeah.
over the months and years of us getting to know each other, understanding that it bothers me and it bothers me enough to say something about it. And my willingness to address the things that bother him that he speaks about, I think it's a mutual thing. It's a mutual respect, like what you're saying. But we can never really, in my opinion is, and kind of found it, when we change for other people, it's not really an authentic change for us because it's not something that is sustainable.
Right.
So when you talk about our relationship, let me go there too. When you talk about our relationship with people and wanting to change or
Mhm.
wanting to become different, doesn't mean that we have to change our personality. Part of that could be control, but it does mean that there's a consideration, right? That something that I'm doing is causing a barrier between my connection with you. And that doesn't have to just be a marital relationship. I told my mom just got married, y'all, remarried after 15, 16 years of my dad being, wait, what year is this?
2024.
17? Is it going to be 17 years this year?
I already had enough trauma dealing with us. When I got away from college, he's 17, I was like 31. So that was numbers, and I've stopped. I
Woo
can't.
child. So she's been single, as a widow for over a decade, let's just put it like that.
Mhm.
Never really dated anybody before my dad, never had a boyfriend before my dad. My dad was her everything. And so 30 plus years, 25 plus years, almost 30 years in a marriage. And then that person dies. Um, on that single journey of figuring out what it means to be, yes, a widow is supposed to be honored and this, that, and the other, but our family dynamic, uncharted territory, yada, yada, yada. She just got married. It'll be a month. Can you believe that? On the 19th, it'll be a month already that she's been married. My point in saying this is I was having conversations with her in the last 2 to 3 years about her lacking consideration. She was so offended. She was
Mm.
so offended. What do you mean I'm not considerate? And I was like, Mom, you've been living by yourself
Yeah.
for more than 15 years. So whatever you think, whatever you say, whatever you do goes. So you don't have to consider that someone else is in the bed with you. You
Yeah.
haven't been in a position where you need to consider what someone else may want to eat, or that you like to eat chocolate covered almonds and knowing you're going to get a headache, the next morning, or,
Yeah.
in the bed at night. You haven't had to consider if you want the fan on or how you want to sleep, in your menopause state. You're not considering how loud that doggone TV is. Okay, so this also goes to parenting parents, which is another thing we're going to talk about. But let me stick to the point for right now. You're not considerate.
Right.
You have to learn how to consider another person. Doesn't mean that you weren't considerate of us when you were a mom, when we were your kids, like you don't have compassion or care. But as it relates to a relationship,
Yeah.
you were in that relationship so long, you're going to have to relearn some things and unlearn some things of habits or behaviors or patterns that you've established to consider that other person.
But I think where you are though, it's really uncharted for so many people to really consider the thoughts and wishes and needs of others because for so
Mhm.
often, especially in our society right now, with the generations that are up right now that are coming into, I don't want to say coming to the workforce, 'cause the workforce is different nowadays.
Mhm.
It's totally shifted from when, I was looking to go to college and go to work. It's different. But so those are becoming influential in the marketplace. It's it's a place where people consider more of themselves, and that's been going on for years, decades of people. So, like L'Oreal products, and always talk about being you, and
Mhm.
always about who you were, and Nike's stuff back in the day was just do it, and it was everybody was all about self. So here we come to a point where even our country and our world is dealing with self, right?
Mhm.
And not worrying about the consequences of how someone else feels. So we tried to make that 180 and say, okay,
Mhm.
let's change it, right? And everyone is equal, and we're socialistic, and everybody gets a plastic trophy. Even if I didn't ever show to the game, if I stood out in the field or on the court or whatever it is and didn't do anything,
Mhm.
I get the same recognition as someone else that I
Mhm.
put the time in. And that's never the way. And so finding that consideration for how do we handle and how do we deal with people who are not putting in work, those who
Mhm.
put in work to good or bad or indifferent, how do we deal with all that stuff? And I think it's an uncharted space where we are as a community of people, because
Mhm.
we don't really know what's required. And because unfortunately a lot of us really haven't taken the time to consider where we are and what we need,
Mhm.
and then trying to express that need to someone else.
Yeah.
That in itself is uncharted.
I think for me, my experiences with staying too long really are in this relationship and also career. There, I know there's a career tab here as well. Um, but sometimes there's a knowing, not a knowing. It is annoying to know something and still do something different. But there is a knowing that I ignored, that I knew I had overstayed
Mhm.
my welcome, had overstayed my comfort, had overstayed in so many different ways,
Yeah,
that you mentioned we don't realize the impact, the self and others when we do that.
yeah,
And so we're in these unhealthy now relationships with self, with work, with family, with mindset, with all the different types of relationships that are possible. We're in an unhealthy space because I knew when it was time for me to go. Scared. I
yeah,
was scared, not even so much of how I was going to make it.
yeah,
At that point in my life, I was more scared what other people were thinking about me or would think about me or would say about me.
yeah,
And that caused me to prolong some damage in my own life.
yeah.
You're playing video games and it's like damage. I was watching the kids
Yep,
play Mortal Kombat the other day.
yep.
Caitlin's actually really good at that game. I know it's a little violence, but and the damage, it's like one more hit, two more hits, all of that. And and I think about that in my own life. How many unnecessary hits
Yeah,
did I take
yeah.
because I stayed too long?
But it's true, because we spend a lot of time in relational problems and issues and situations because we don't really want to be with ourselves. I went
Mhm.
through years
Mhm.
with not wanting to be in a room with just me. And it was
Mhm.
before marriage. Because none of this is not just something you deal with a grief struggle. No,
No.
it's, I wasn't cool with myself. So there's some
Mhm.
of us that just hunger and crave the attention and the community with someone else so much that we forget that we are a community of one, and that community of one is enough and should be enough. And then those who believe in God, you're never alone. You always have the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit with you. So even in that collective, you're always together with someone. And so I jumped to post married life.
Mhm.
It took me years of people not answering the phone and not texting when I thought I needed them, for me to
Mm.
understand that folks are going to fail you. And it's no disrespect for those people who I've been friendly with.
Mhm.
We can't help ourselves but to fail each other because we're not perfect.
Right.
I had to get to the point where in my relationships, I stayed too long thinking that they were going to rescue and save me and always be there
Right.
for me. So I had
Yeah.
to get to the point with all my relationships, I had to pull them back, put some more distance and barriers to people, not for their sake. No, let me rephrase it. Not for my sake, but for theirs. Because
Mm.
I had
Mhm.
actually got our relationship out of balance with horizontally as friends and then vertically with God. I put them as idols in my life, and I had to stop that.
That's an interesting word. When I think about, you said idols, that's the interesting word. And I think about soul ties, and I know some people, particularly religious people, have different understandings of that. And some people believe that you can't have them because God is the barrier. He's the, the end all be all to everything. And that is true. However, we forget about free will.
Yeah.
We forget that I have a choice to connect with someone that I'm not supposed to be connected to. And that knowing that I was talking about, and I'm pointing to my gut because that's what I do. That knowing, we can override that. And we can even override what he has for us, thinking that we know better. We can override what is actually unfolding right before our eyes based on what we asked for, because we're connected to something or someone. And so that becomes the greater draw that we rely upon for influence, that we rely upon for information, that we rely upon and become comfortable with, getting the validation outside of ourselves instead of what is happening within our spirit, what is happening within our mind, what is happening within our heart, and how those connect to really bring forth the truth of who we're supposed to be. So I absolutely believe in soul ties. I believe that they come in many forms, in people, in the things that certain people gave me. I remember also, Peggy, when me and Steve first got married, I didn't have this so much I had it in my second marriage, but not so much in my first marriage. Even pictures, meaning for myself, pictures of things. When I got married, I was fresh out of high school. So I was popular in high school, and I had a lot of friends, and I had a lot of male friends. I had a lot of female friends. I wasn't sleeping with all of them. At the same time, I had a lot of different types of relationships. So I'll leave it at that for the purpose of this conversation. So I had pictures from dances and all the things that made my life what it was. And when I decided to change the status of my relationship and get married to my then boyfriend, fiance, I had to put those things away. Yeah. And some pictures with certain people I had to destroy. Because I was so connected to, if I saw that picture, I was immediate back back wherever I was, and that's what soul ties do. They're triggers, or they're reminders of a past that you're trying to let go of. And I only say it in the negative way, because if it's positive, you can draw strength from that, right? But if it's a memory that you're trying to overcome or black out or what have you, then, and it's holding you, it's binding you to something that is never going to change, which is the past. That's not healthy. That's why it's a soul tie that you have to break. So as we enter into these relationships with different people, and we're triggered by something that they do, that's another opportunity for us to say, is that bothering me because Joe Blow did that, or is that bothering me because Steve does it? Right? Yeah. Because I can hold my husband in a very hostage in our very healthy relationship to a very toxic past if I'm not careful, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens sometimes when you stay too long. Our lives start blurring and looking like something from the past, even though we're living and operating in the present. We're still held and bound. And so we have to learn how to break that for ourselves. And you said this, so I'm gonna let you tackle this. I think it's appropriate.
Man, yeah. So what does that look like? I've actually had a couple different examples of that in my own life, like recently, where when we say something truthful to God, okay, let's say, oh God, I want a house that has, RV parking or fire pit, single story, corner lot. I want this and that in my life. I did those kind of things, right? And over the course of the years, I've had, several different houses. I lived in different places, and none of them had the things I asked for until the house I live in right now.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell
Yeah.
me more about that.
Well, it's well, here's the ridiculous part. When I started asking the Lord years ago, I want a corner house, I want a single story lot, I want little minimal yard, I don't want any type of yard maintenance. I was want, master bedroom off the back of the home, fire
Mhm.
pit, patio, blah, blah, all these things. I didn't say I ever wanted it in a home that I owned, in a place of my choosing,
Ah,
right?
okay. Mhm.
So when I was coming to view this home, I remember the Lord, a feeling in my spirit that the Lord shared with me that nothing I'm going to be able to do and dream about doing will come to pass or happen if I don't make this particular move that I was
Okay.
down here. And I got here, and I went later on that same trip. I remember calling another friend, and telling him, "Man, I bet this house is going to look a mess, but it's going to have to be what I want because I'm not going to recognize what it is from God. I just feel it." And sure enough,
Mm.
the house, the weeds were overgrown because the property manager hadn't done the landscaping because they were doing some other things to the home
Sure.
in preparation for someone to move in. And so it took me probably about a year and a half, 2 years to realize and sit back and go, when I finally pulled myself back from the fleshy, sad, and selfish side of me complaining
Mhm.
about the home because I didn't like it. The
Mhm.
colors were dark chocolates. It was a house built in 72, so it's kinda got that 72 California beachy kinda feel.
Mhm. Mhm.
Small rooms, odd shapes, things why would you put that there? Why is the kitchen so small? Why is the oven undersized? I mean, but
Mhm.
72, it was what it was, and why didn't anybody do a remodel and blah, 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 why didn't?
Mm.
And then as I start to kinda move through the home, I started
Mhm.
to understand this has what I wanted, a house with a big fireplace. This one has in a fireplace in a room that people would wanna gather in a centralized space. I have
Yes.
that with this one.
Yes.
I have RV parking here. I have everything I've wanted, single story, minimal yard, blah, 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 blah. But if we would stop complaining long enough
Mhm.
about the things that it doesn't have, because paint you can change,
Mhm.
whatever it is, you can move things around. You can, if you would allow yourself the time to stop complaining and probably shut up, sit down, bite your tongue till it bleeds, let the blood run down your chin, and just
Yeah.
look. It has everything we asked for. So I always said, be careful. But if you wanted it to own the home too, me in my
Mhm.
case, I should have added that to the list.
Mhm.
I have
Mhm.
another son that talks about, oh, Dad, I want to be an athlete at the collegiate level. I want to
Mhm.
do my athletics with a Division I NCAA school.
Mhm. Mhm.
He got accepted to a school that fit that exact build,
Mm.
an NCAA Division I school that allowed
Beautiful.
walk-ons to do what he in his sport that he wants to do.
Mhm.
He did not accept their acceptance. And I'm
Mm.
thinking, I wonder if and I know he didn't do it because he had not told me. He didn't check and see if that school was a Division I school. And now a school he's talking about going to locally, it's a Division II school. So sometimes we miss out on the things that we want the most
Mm.
by complaining and not paying attention to what we've got.
Yeah.
To be
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah. Truth. Truth. So there are so many different ways I could go, and I am not ready for two things yet. So I'm going to stick to my script in my head that is screaming. Um, we do have to be specific.
Very,
And
very.
when I think about my own journey to this home here, literally, Craig, I don't know if I've ever shared it with you, but I have a list of everything that I wanted. You were at our home in Chula Vista, so
Mhm.
that was a corner lot. It was nice size. It was two-story. It was everything that I asked for that season. And
Mhm.
then we stayed too long.
Yeah.
We started building on wanting, and it was beautiful. Everything that we quote unquote needed and more, except we didn't have everything that we needed
Yeah.
because we started overbuilding. We were building ourselves out of the market.
Yep.
And I didn't even have my own bathroom by the time we got done adding the room additions and having Caitlin and, sacrificing our master retreat that was the only room upstairs, giving that to the boys. Like it was all into everything was intentional. It was planned. It was well planned out. But we stayed too long to the point where we outgrew
Yeah.
that space.
Yeah.
We outgrew what we could even do and what the city would then approve for us to do. So then we actually, because we outgrew it, we actually didn't have everything that we needed, even though we started off having everything that we needed.
Yeah.
And I remember starting to say, I'm moving. And at that time, Lawrence and Caitlin were the only minors in the house. And I told my husband, I said, I don't know what y'all doing. You and Taylor, y'all, you can do whatever you want to do. But me and my two babies, these young ones that don't have a job and still, we're moving.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you mean? I remember my mom saying, you divorcing Steve? I'm like, no, I'm not divorcing Steve. Steve can come if he wants to, but I'm moving. I've outgrown. I don't want to stay too long. And I started listing out everything that I wanted.
Yep.
And I was courteous. I asked Big Daddy what did he want to, but not before I did my list, because I had to get clear on what I wanted, because I understood if we stayed there any longer, it was going to be a tragic situation versus a opportunity to celebrate that we were able to save, or we were able to do this, or and I wrote it out. I want property. I want a minimum of this many acres, this many square footage, this much square footage, a pool. I want vaulted ceilings. I want, windows all around. I described this house to a T before I even saw it.
Yeah.
And I asked and I prayed. And when we came onto the property, we only looked at 2 houses when we were in the market. Once we got the right real estate agent, we looked at 2 houses, like physically went. We looked at a lot on Redfin, but we looked at 2 in person, and one of them would have been in the same neighborhood, and we would have kind of been, in my opinion, settling a little bit because it had enough bedrooms for our family, but it didn't have like an office space or a guest room that would be accessible for our moms, who were the only, and my sister, who comes to visit once a year. They need handicap accessibility or no stairs. So it would have compromised our living circumstances too much to where we wouldn't be free to do what we needed to do. So we said, no, we're not going to put an offer in on that one. We came to this one. We were here, what typical walkthrough of a house. An open house is like 30 minutes. You walk in, you see, you say, conquer, no conquer, deal, no deal, and you move. You move on. We were here for 4 hours, walking every inch of this property, every single inch. We prayed, and I felt my dad's presence telling me that it was okay. And that was confirming. I looked at my husband, and normally he's like, well, it had, and I'm like, well, what about this? Like, my Mr. Visionary, you could do this, and easy. It was none of that. And we were even able to meet the owners, which is not proper. We were able to meet the owners, and they sowed into our lives, giving us a boat, giving us, wood that my husband could use for his business. So staying too long in that sense, we received a blessing. But I believe that it only worked that way because we were clear.
Right.
We were clear. And this is what I will say, and then I will be quiet. If it's not, if it's for you, it's yours. If it's not, let it go quickly. Yeah. Because staying too long will produce tragedy and potential trauma.
Yeah, in property and in friendships and in mindsets. And we just talked about relationships. We had passed
careers
too, because if we stay too long, I'm going to share this picture.
Okay.
Because I think it should overlay right over that top of this picture. Let me take that banner down, Michelle.
Let me change my view too. So forgive us for if anything shifts with your technical view here.
You're good.
Okay.
You should be good.
Okay.
I love what the conversation talking about staying too long, because the things that we're staying too long to are our past, and we've already gone past PASSED, the time that we should have spent with something in our past PASSED. That's going to turn into an anchor, and it's going to hold us in the spot, like you talked about before, being tethered to or tied to, soul tied to someone. So those who don't, you can feel any way you want about a soul tie, But the validity of a soul tie is this in this image.
Yes.
It's keeping us anchored. It drops a pin to a spot where we were and still are. And
Yes.
you'll never reach your future because you'll be tied to where you are. You'll be able to
Yes.
see it in part. And even the string in this case that's where the balloon is tied to, you can't even get to where the balloon needs to be if you're still holding on to the past. Sometimes you got to let go because, and it's okay to get to the spot where you've been to, well, I got a house where I wanted to be, like you said in Chula Vista. I've got to the house where I am in Temecula, and I had done like you had done last year. I started telling my boys, look, I don't know where we're going, but
Mm-hmm.
I know it's time for us to move. And they were
Yeah.
like, and so they started to get they're a little traumatized because I had moved us previously years ago,
Mm-hmm.
every year for 3 years straight. And now my youngest was like, well, Dad, I want to finish at the high school I'm at. Can we stay there? And I said, well, let's make sure you're clear. I didn't say I'm leaving the area. I believe this is where
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be, but I
Mm-hmm.
can't any longer be in this particular space that we're in. I
Yeah.
want to own a home again. I've owned since I was 25, 26,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then to be 55 and rent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not excited about that part. And there's some parts of my past that tether me to a mindset that says, you're that old and you don't own a home. That's something about you as a person. But
Mm-hmm.
that's okay because me as this person needed to let go of the house that I had when I was married because I couldn't let go of that past and stay in there and bring another
Yes.
person in there to not always see that place and that space being what I built because the anchor I had put down on that other house was this was my forever home.
Mm-hmm.
When they
Mm-hmm.
get married, I know we say the vow. Well, not some of us do, but some people do. Those who say that till death do us part,
Mm-hmm.
they say it in words, and they
Mm-hmm.
really don't believe that it'll ever part them because we're either divorcing quickly or in this modern millennial group right now, they're not marrying as fast and living
Mm-hmm.
together for fear of watching their parents who were the one or two generations before, divorce or stay in marriages too long that have
Mm-hmm.
aged out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And had not even physically aged out, but heart change, mindset aged out. And the point really is you need to stay where you need to be for the time you need to be there. And when it's time to go, don't be sad.
Yeah.
Because leaving some relationship, leaving some friendship doesn't mean you can't be their friend in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
But it means that you've got to go where you've got to go because those folks that you're hitched your trailer, you hitched your horse to, they're not going where you're going. They can't go where you're going.
Right.
It's not for them to be there.
Right.
So we need to get to where we're going and be happy about that and be
Mm-hmm.
excited for what's on the other side. And that's what I know I've been trying to do and get my kids to see in this new uncharted point of our lives.
Mm-hmm. Dun, 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 dun. Two things. All right. Um, First thing, thank you for bringing up that story again with your house, because in a previous episode, you said that literally staying in that house that you were in,
Mhm,
I don't, I, in addition to Sandy passing there,
mhm,
that's my doctor's office calling me. I will call them. Literally, one or more of your kids
mhm,
were dying
mhm.
physically,
Yeah,
not literally, peeps, physically dying because of the allergens that were there.
yeah,
So if you would have stayed, even
yeah,
though the kiddos were like,
yeah,
Dad, you know, we can survive. You knew at a certain point that there was going to be tragedy, more trauma
yep.
if you would have stayed,
Oh, yeah.
even though it was what you needed for that season. So that's number one. And that is really a powerful lesson that validates and confirms that what we're saying is true. It
Yeah.
may not be your trauma is your trauma, so it's going to be as big as it is or as deep as it is to you. But the point is that when we stay long, there is an outcome, a negative impact
Yeah.
that could potentially happen for doing that. And number two, you said don't be sad when you have to move on.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, and I feel you, because there should be a joy about, about
Sure.
stepping into our future, and
Sure.
being present in our present, to recognize that the future is possible again. And I do think that there is sometimes a grieving that happens
Sure.
when those relationships, whether they're toxic or whether they're positive,
Sure.
there's still a process, because we have to retrain our heart, our head, our mind, our bodies
Yeah.
to operate without that piece, even if it's toxic.
Yeah.
I have a client, and she was telling me that she was moving on from a relationship, and that the person that she was in relationship with liked the brokenness, liked the broken her. And as soon as she started healing herself,
Yeah.
as soon as she started getting better, this person is like, what's happening? What are you doing?
Yep.
Like, why are you changing?
Yep.
What's wrong?
Yep.
And sometimes the relationships that we have, that's what the other person in the relationship is attracted to,
Yeah.
is the brokenness, because they may be a fixer, or they're broken, but you're more broken than them, so they feel safe and secure. There's a superiority, that my brokenness is not as bad as your brokenness. So even when those relationships have to be severed, tied, burned,
Yeah.
bridge burned, never going back, to your point, you will never go back to the relationship the way that it was, and sometimes you shouldn't. And there are times when the relationship that we have with the person has to be modified, right? And so then we get to decide what access that person has to us, or how much we're going to be in that person's presence.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As
Yeah.
long as it's in a healthy state. But I do believe that there is a grieving that happens, negative or positive,
Yeah.
when we sever ties in relationships.
Yeah. I have a relationship now. I grieved it for about 2 years
Mm-hmm.
before I started to move on from that
Mm-hmm.
person, because I realized, like you said, there was a superiority complex there, where
Mm-hmm.
the person liked the broken me. And when the
Mm-hmm.
broken me started to become the healed me, then
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to, how do I say it? I can't allow anyone to keep me the broken me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think I wrote a piece. I read you the poem I have.
Oh yes. How did that go?
I haven't finished the production on it yet.
I thought you
So
were going that night. That's another topic. Okay,
no,
go ahead.
no, I didn't. Oh, so sidebar for that.
Okay.
That night I went to the event. There wasn't an opportunity for me to perform the piece. And
Okay.
but to your point, the
Okay.
host, he did say that for next month I would be a featured person to be able to deliver that piece.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of bananas right now, as think about it. Because had I not been, had I allowed someone else or myself, because no one can stop you but you, right? So
Yeah.
if I allowed myself to still be the me that other people wanted me to be when they wanted
Mm-hmm.
me to do the things for them for free, that person doesn't live here anymore. I can't
Mm-hmm.
be that person anymore. And I can't allow myself to allow someone else for me to be that person anymore.
Yeah.
And so even relationships, even with mindset, I can't even allow my mind to stay back where it was. And I want to go backwards to those
Yeah.
old mindsets. I can't do that anymore. I've got to break that tie. I've got to let go. And it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary to realize in a lot of cases I need new friends, new close friends. I can't, the old friends, they're still going to be old friends,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't be in their presence all the time because it's not safe for me, to be in that all the time. I've got to be free. I got to be me, the me that I've always wanted me to be, right? That I know
Yes.
that I needed me to be, when I saw that I dreamed for me to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we
Mm-hmm.
don't understand that part, and if we're not really willing to be tenacious about the me that we want us to be, then
Mm-hmm.
we're the one with the problem, not the other people trying to corral us and put us in a box, right?
Right.
It's us. We're the ones that have the say so in what we do. And
Mm-hmm.
hey, it's time for me to, I've broken some molds, and I'm learning this new path, and it's scary. Sometimes it's slower than I want life to be,
Mhm.
but I can't stop. I can't give up.
Yeah.
Because if I give up now trying to be the me that I've always dreamed for me
Mhm.
to be, then that means my sons are limited then, but
Mhm.
by what they saw me become.
Mhm.
I give them the example and show out, live the example that life is limitless for themselves, then they know that, hey, I have an example of you can work, you can go to school, you can be self-employed, you can be whatever it is, even
Mhm.
be president, because Obama was in at that time, right? When their mother passed. And my dad never gave up, right?
Mhm.
So that's where I think it's so super important for people to get on these uncharted territories and not, don't be afraid. I say don't be afraid. Yeah, we're gonna be terrified, right? But we're not gonna have fear, right? That's a whole different show, probably a whole different part of Uncharted,
Sure.
is that we have to be able to get out of that boat and like Peter did and walk towards our destiny like he did.
Mhm.
People can say,
Mhm.
oh, Peter failed, he got afraid. Yeah. But Peter wasn't lost. Peter was saved, put back on his boat, and given another opportunity to continue his uncharted journey on his own.
You reminded me of when my dad preached that message before about Peter walking on the water.
Mhm.
And to your point, like everything that you said is accurate on that. You know, he stepped out of that boat in faith. He saw, yes, he stepped out fear and trembling, but
Mhm.
once he knew that it was Jesus that was, beckoning him to come, then he felt safe and he did it and he launched out in that uncharted territory.
Mhm.
And so my daddy's in that message, he said, Peter wasn't the problem. It was them on the boat that was, that was, I can't say the word. I don't want to say it. It was them boys on the boat, that was telling him, "You gonna sink? You a fool? What you doing? You 100 and something, whatever." He made up some numbers, whatever. But
Yeah.
it's important that we know who we're listening to. It's important that we know what we're listening to.
Yeah.
And because that is the difference between you, me, us, we achieving our destiny,
Yeah.
stepping out into that uncharted territory, getting off the X of that fear,
Yeah.
getting off the X of anxiety, and getting off the X of X's, and getting off the X of soul ties, getting off the X of friends or foes that are speaking to us, and we're using their words as our truth instead of our own truth as our truth. And so yeah, it's gonna be rocky. It's gonna be amazing. I was listening to this inspirational thing this morning, and I think it's Les Brown's voice because it's a compilation video that
Mhm.
I was listening to. But he said nobody remembers anybody who avoided the trouble or the challenge. And my words on the trouble challenge issue. Nobody remembers the person who avoided the battle. No one remembers.
Mhm.
And he was talking about David and Goliath, and uh, all the different people, characters in the Bible, different stories, and different natural, physical characters. And he said nobody remembers those people who avoided anything. They remember the people who survived the battle. They remember the people who overcame the challenge. They remember the people who didn't quit when it looked like their giant was looming larger than life and was going to overtake them. But nobody ever talks about the people who avoided anything. So it's important that when we go through and when we accept that our future
Mhm.
cannot be tethered we can't be tethered to our past and still make it to the future. If that's the present mindset that we have, is that I'm only as good as I used to be, and I'm not worthy, or I'm never going to reach that, or we're taking on other people's personas and other people's words because we stayed in those relationships too long to realize that who we really needed to have the conversation with is ourselves.
Yeah.
Who we really needed to get to know again is ourselves. Who
Yeah.
we really needed to unlearn past behaviors, destructive or not, is ourselves, because we're really the ones that are controlling what happens in our future. So that's where I'm at.
Well, I think when you're talking about that in this uncharted territory, I think there's so many of us that don't want the responsibility for where we end up, right? We don't want to be responsible for the fact if we are shipwrecked, right? And because I felt like that for years. It's like, man, I don't want to have my kids be out here on some, limb or some place because of my choices or my poor choices, right? So I stayed too long in situations and jobs and relationships with people because they were safe. They were what we knew. They were what my kids knew. And I got on this path really probably 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Well, probably no, probably not 8's too far. Probably 5 to 7 years ago when we started to move from house to house, because I couldn't allow my kids to steer the ship because they don't have their pilot license. They didn't have a driver's license. They didn't have enough life in front of them. So I couldn't allow them to, and their fear, right, to deter me from where I needed to take them. Fortunately, I did that with my marriage. I allowed my late wife's fear of what we were supposed to do, where we were supposed to go, to allow me to stop steering the ship where they wanted us to be. And that's the problem. Now, we did some great things as a couple, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, he did.
But the permissive will of God, and I've had this argument with another friend for years, the permissive will and the perfect will of God, they don't exist because it's always the permissive will wins. And I'm like, but doesn't mean that the perfect will doesn't exist. The perfect will of God is, this was the plan I had set for you to get here. The plan was for the children of Israel to leave their country and get to this promised land, and I'm sure under 40 days, or I'm sure under 40 years.
Years,
right?
Yeah.
So
both are true.
right. So I can't believe that, there's no perfect situation that the Lord sets for us. Now, our free will is what gums the whole thing up, where we become, in my case, 11 years later, before I've chosen to get into relationships, more romantic relationships, and get into things that where my sons and I have that side of my life is different. Other aspects have been changing for them. Now they need to experience this portion as well, because I need to experience that portion. There's a lot of us that make change to a certain point. I may eat my toast with butter on one side and no jam, right?
Okay, for a minute, it sounded like you say eat your toes with butter.
Because some of the toes got the oh, sorry.
I love.
If you know, you know. If you watch it, you know, you know. I'm just, but we've got to make those choices because it's us, right? And really seek after the things that are going to make us better, going to give us a more expanded life, and get off the block. We have to get off that X of fear. And if I don't, that forces the next generation, or what sons of a father span 3 and 4 generations. That would mean 3, 4 generations. That would be my sons, my son's sons, my son's sons' sons, and potentially my son's sons' sons' sons would have this issue with fear and not wanting to be able to move into what they're supposed to be. I can't be the catalyst for that.
Yeah.
There's no way in the world I want them to look back and go, why am I all jacked up? Because you know what? Because your grandfather's grandfather's grandfather was a son of a gun. And then now you've got 3 and 4 generations of junk to fight through to get to a portion or get to moving towards where you want to go. I don't want to get there.
Ooh, that's a topic, and we should probably explore that offline before we bring that online, because I think that there's some. We were kind of talking about it offline this morning, as we were continuing to prepare that. There, in many families, not just ours, there are these things that happen that we sweep under the carpet. And I use that analogy a lot of times. And it's this passive approach to love, a passive approach to truth, a passive approach to correction, that perpetuates generation after generation after generation. And I found myself talking to my niece about a situation. She was like, oh, it's such and such coming. And I was like, Auntie wants to tell you the truth. And maybe my truth might be too much. So talk to your mother. And then I called my sister and I said, listen, she's asking questions. I don't know what you want to tell her, but I'm telling you, Auntie Shell is going to tell her the truth.
Right.
And it's not my place to tell anybody's business, but I can tell my experience. And when you're talking about coming to my house,
sure,
then I have the right to say such and such is not welcome at my house for these reasons.
Facts.
They're not welcome here because I have a daughter and I have sons. I have a husband. I am a wife. And there are certain things. I said I am a wife, not I have a wife too. We don't allow here. Yeah. Not because we're better than those family members, but because we know better. And you're not going to put a pedophile over the youth ministry. I'm not going to bring a pedophile to my house and say, oh, you can stay here, when I know that I can't say Uncle Johnny because that's your real dad's name. And Uncle Johnny was not that ever. So Joe Blow, I'll use that name again, is a pedophile. And my grandma knew it, my mama knew it, my daddy knew it, my uncles knew it, my auntie knew it, my niece, my cousins were in. You're not coming to my house.
Right.
And just because this other person has a relationship with that person, that does not make it my relationship.
Correct.
So I know I went off on a tangent, forgive me, but that's what happens when the generation after generation after generation suffers because of what was not handled at the root. Right. If somebody has a mental illness in your family, help them get the help that they need.
Yeah.
If you know that somebody is a pedophile, if you know that somebody is a rapist, if you know that somebody is just twisted, demented, psychopath, even narcissistic, sociopath, I have experience with that. You're not welcome. You're not welcome here. I love you. I love you with the love of the Lord. And I pray for you that God will heal you and that he will deliver you, but you're not welcome in my home. So no. Thieves, liars, not that I never stole nothing. It's not that I never lied. I'm not doing that now. And I don't want that spirit in my space.
Yeah. And you want your stuff to stay in your space.
Listen, you're not welcome. So we're over. Anyway. Maybe that's the topic. You're not welcome. And all the things that you're not welcome to do in my life. I do not give you permission to be that, to do that, or to have that. Amen. All right.
Amen. Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate everyone for staying with us. For those who listen to our topic today, we're stayed too long as a part of our Uncharted series. And I think as we keep going with this, I think boundaries and borders, and we've also talked about that before, some of those are uncharted territories for some people. Yes. Because they haven't set proper boundaries. And I know, we haven't gone back to rehash topics, but some stuff you just have to keep talking about and doing, just because maybe someone will finally get it, to finally find the same tool in the toolbox, because a screwdriver is still a screwdriver. But there's different types of screwdrivers for different types of nut. So maybe that's what we need to do, and maybe it is for help to somebody. And Steven out there, if I use the wrong nut, but should have been a bolt, I apologize. I'm not a
washer. It's a washer.
I probably know enough about work and tools and making changes and corrections to be dangerous. And there's really no repair I won't tackle on my own, or at least once, or at least try. So, but there's some stuff I know I will never do alone, again, because I've been there, done that. So anyway, and with that, the dog has told us it's time to go. And if you want to be on the show, if you have content that you want to share on the show, you can always email us at knightandcraigshow@gmail.com. And if you also share our, I'm sorry, you hit it already. I apologize.
Listen, I'm doing my technical piece. Help me. Let me help you.
You're looking over the fingers. But yes, so follow us, share, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and see us on social media. Again, if you want to be a guest, you want to join us on this season 3. Oh my gosh, just saying it's just craziness. 3 seasons, 36 episodes. Yeah. So keep looking for us, and hope to see you all next time on the Knight&Craig Show. Love you all.
Love you. Bye.
I came to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascending word, bending verse, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of message. The verses so clean, so long. You better catch a God, throw him the scenes. Dreams manifested, you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Yeah, I think we got one.